Welcome to our latest Wandering Walks of Wonder City Tour. Today we're headed to Indianapolis, Indiana. Now this particular walk we're doing today is just going to focus on a few of the more historic buildings as well as monuments in the downtown area. Take a look at my playlist and you can see a little bit longer walk that covers the Capitol as well as other areas in the downtown area. Indianapolis was officially founded on January 6, 1821. The city grew slowly at first, serving primarily as an administrative and agricultural hub, but the arrival of the National Road in the 1830s and the completion of the Central Canal spurred growth in the city. The first historic building that we see is the Indiana Theater. The Indiana Theater was conceived in the early 1920s as a grand movie palace. It was part of a broader trend during the era when ornate and luxurious theaters were built to enhance the movie-going experience. Construction was completed in 1927. The Indiana Theater opened its doors on June 18, 1927, showing the silent film Rough House Rosie starring Clara Bow and accompanied by a live orchestra. Today, it is home to the Indiana Repertory Theater. The Indianapolis Arts Garden is a glass dome structure that spans the intersection of Washington and Illinois Street here in downtown Indianapolis. It functions as both a pedestrian connector between Circle Center Mall and nearby office buildings and hotels, but it's also a vibrant venue for artistic and musical performances that host over 300 events a year. When it was initially constructed in 1995, the Arts Garden served as that connector, and it actually has galleries as well as events that are held inside. Indianapolis over the years continued to grow, especially in the 1840s when the railroad came to town. By the mid-19th century, there were so many transportation areas and events that were happening around the city that it became known as the Crossroads of America. During the Civil War, Indianapolis served as a major supply depot for the Union Army. Camp Morton, a military training camp, was also established in the city. But after the Civil War, the city experienced rapid industrialization. Manufacturing and commerce boomed, and the population continued to grow significantly. The automobile industry played a significant role in the city's economy with several manufacturing plants in town, but most importantly, in 1911, the Indianapolis 500 was first held. That became an iconic event that attracts global attention even to today. Ahead of us, we're now entering the Monument Circle area, and what we see with the large monument in front of us is the Indiana State Soldiers and Sailors Monument. It's a 284-foot tall neoclassical monument located right smack in the middle of downtown. It commemorates Indiana's veterans from several wars. The monument itself was designed by German architect Bruno Schmitz, and it took over 13 years to build from 1888 to 1901. The original plan for Indianapolis included this circular plot of land right here in the center that was originally designated as the Governor's Circle for Indiana's governor's residence. Over time, though, the area became a hub for public gathering and civic events, and after the Civil War, many proposals were made for a monument, but it wasn't until 1887 that a monument association as well as funding took place to allow this area to become more of a monument circle than the Governor's Circle. The Hilbert Circle Theater, initially known as the Circle Theater, is a really historic landmark here on Monument Circle. It was built in 1916 by architects Rubish and Hunter and was one of the first motion picture palaces in the Midwest and one of the pioneering movie theaters west of New York. Originally, the theater showcased silent films, locally produced stage shows, and concerts. Notable performances were by Frank Sinatra as well as Dizzy Gillespie. The Circle Theater introduced sound movies in 1927 and was the first to show the groundbreaking film The Jazz Singer in 1928. With the rise of multi-screen cinemas and suburban malls during the 60s and 70s, it led to a decline in the theater's condition, but it was renovated and reopened in 1984 as the home of the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. It was renamed the Hilbert Circle Theater following an endowment from Stephen Hilbert and his wife. The Columbia Club was originally formed in 1889 by a group of prominent local Republicans under the name Harrison Marching Society to support Benjamin Harrison's presidential campaign. Following Harrison's election to president, the society acquired a clubhouse here on Monument Circle and changed its name to the Columbia Club to continue as a private club. The club grew quickly and its membership became the premier private club in Indianapolis. Some significant events that occurred here were that the founders of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway met at the club to discuss its destruction way back in the early 1900s, and in 1984, secret meetings were held at the club to negotiate the move of the Baltimore Colts to Indianapolis. Christ Church Cathedral serves as the cathedral for the Episcopal Diocese of Indianapolis. It's the oldest church building in continuous use in Indianapolis and in Marion County, Indiana, and it's also the oldest structure here on Monument Circle. Christ Church Parish itself was formally organized in 1837, and the current church building was erected in 1857 to replace the original structure on the same site. The church was designed by William Tinsley in the English Gothic Revival style. Christ Church Cathedral is renowned for its music program, and it features pipe organs, including one donated by philanthropist Ruth Lilly. The church hosts a professional choir of men's and boys and a girls' choir, enhancing its liturgical and musical offerings. Here on our right is the Birch Bayh Federal Building and U.S. Courthouse, originally known as the U.S. Courthouse and Post Office. The building was constructed from 1902 to 1905. It served the United States District Court for the District of Indiana until the court subdivision in 1928. The United States Circuit Court for the District of Indiana also met here until it was abolished in 1912. In 2003, the courthouse was renamed in honor of Senator Birch Bayh. The building itself was one of 35 buildings across the U.S. that were constructed under the Tarnsey Act of 1893, which allowed the U.S. Treasury Department to seek designs from private architectural firms. The Beaux Arts building was completed in 1905 in a U shape and is about 4 stories tall and occupies an entire city block. We're now looking at the AT&T building. That's a prominent high-rise. It's about 22 stories tall and opened in 1932. It originally was the headquarters that was built by the Central Union Telegraph Company, but Indiana Bell acquired the Central Company in 1929 and constructed this building in 1932. We're now entering the Indiana War Memorial Plaza as well as the Indiana War Memorial itself. This is an urban park and war memorial here in downtown Indianapolis that was built to honor the veterans of World War I. It was conceived in 1919 as a location for the national headquarters of the American Legion and a memorial to the state's and nation's veterans. Designed by architects Walker and Weeks, the Indiana War Memorial was planned as the centerpiece of the Indiana War Memorial Plaza. Construction began in early 1926 after the demolition of 5 of the 7 existing buildings here on the site. The cornerstone itself was laid by General John Pershing, hero of World War I, on July 4th, 1927. Funding issues in 1988 slowed down the interior construction, but despite efforts including involvement from the Public Works Administration in 1936, the interior itself faced additional delays. The memorial itself was not dedicated until November the 11th, 1933, Veterans Day, though the interior itself, remained incomplete for several years. The memorial design draws inspiration from the mausoleum of Halicarnassus, probably saying that wrong, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It stands at a whopping 210 feet tall that towers over the surrounding area. The building itself is clad entirely in Indiana limestone, and the memorial features a cubicle shape on a high base. Each face is adorned with the iconic screen of 6 columns, behind which are tall windows. And atop the structure are symbolic standing figures that represent courage, memory, peace, victory, liberty, and patriotism. We're now heading into Veterans Memorial Plaza, also known as Obelisk Square. And you can see why with this beautiful obelisk that we see in front of us. It's the centerpiece of the plaza, and it's a 100-foot tall black granite obelisk. It was constructed in 1923, and the entire square itself and plaza was completed in 1930. Near the base of the obelisk, there's a 4 by 8 foot panels that were installed in 1929. These panels represent law, science, religion, and education, which symbolize the fundamental aspects of the nation. One of the most beautiful buildings you'll see in the downtown area is the Scottish Rite Cathedral. The cathedral stands as a monumental example of neo-Gothic architecture that was designed by architect George F. Schreiber, and it was completed in 1929 at a cost of $2.5 million. Owned by the Valley of Indianapolis Scottish Rite, an affiliated body of Freemasonry, it holds the distinction of being the largest Scottish Rite building in the world, and one of the largest Masonic buildings overall. Our last stop on our monuments tour here in downtown Indianapolis appropriately ends at American Legion Mall. This outdoor public space occupies the northern two most blocks of Indianapolis's 5-block Civic Center. The mall features 2 buildings constructed in neoclassical style using Indiana limestone in harmony with the design of the nearby Indianapolis Central Library, which is just to the north here of the mall. The west building, the one that faces Meridian Street, formerly housed the Indiana Veterans Support Center until 2014, and the larger building on the east, the one that we see right here in front of us, serves as the national headquarters of the American Legion. The building itself accommodates mail services, archives, and other administrative functions, while the Legion's lobbying efforts are conducted from its Washington, D.C. offices. I hope you've enjoyed this Wandering Walks of Wonder tour here in downtown Indianapolis. Again, there's a little bit larger video. Go take a look at that in my playlist on Indiana Walks that will take you around the Capitol area, several museums, and along a historic canal that is a beautiful pedestrian area to walk through. Also, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you on our next Wandering Walks of Wonder City walking tour. Take care now. Bye-bye.